Hi everyone, welcome back to TaraChessAcademy. Today we're going to be looking at a game played by Mikhail Botvinnik and Lajos Portisch. So Lajos Portisch was a strong Hungarian grandmaster, and his peak was world number 4. And Mikhail Botvinnik was the former world champion, so they're both very strong opponents here. So Botvinnik opens the game with 1c4, the English e5, knight c3, knight f6, g3, d5, c takes d5, knight takes d5, bishop g2, and all of this is still very common. And right now the top move is knight to b6, just continuing development and just retreating the knight away from the attack. And instead, Lajos Portisch played bishop to e6, knight to f3, attacking the e5 pawn, knight c6, castles, knight to b6, d3. So knight b6 was slightly inaccurate, and white could have continued with a move like d4 and knight to b5 and just take the pawn back and have this nice kingside or central pawn majority here. So instead we had d3, bishop to e7, a3 with some ideas of going b4, a5 stopping b4, bishop to e3, castles, and knight a4. So both players have played pretty logically, and they followed the general opening principles, developing their pieces, controlling the center, and castling. Here it seems like white doesn't have as much control over the center, but white's gonna use the c file and fight along the queen side. So both players are playing pretty reasonably. And knight a4, so it allows this trade, but it could also have the idea of going bishop c5 and exchanging the bishop on e7 for the bishop on e3. And this is a very common plan in these types of structures. So knight a4, knight takes a4, queen takes a4, and now bishop d5 just reinforcing. But here queen a4 just helps connecting the rooks, and here white can go rook ac1 and rook fc1. Botvinnik chooses to go rook fc1 because later he might be able to activate this rook with some b4 eventually. So, but anyways, the plan is going to be to double on the c file and to put pressure on black's position. So rook e8. So this is a pretty natural move, but it may not have been the best move to sort of deal with Botvinnik's plan, because now it seems like Botvinnik has just a nice position, and Portisch may have needed to come up with a better plan to neutralize the position. He could have gone with some ideas of going like f6 and queen d7, queen e6 to attack the queen on b3. That could have been one idea, just supporting the e5 pawn. But rook e8, rook c2, bishop f8. Another point of rook e8 is that it just allows the bishop to retreat to f8. Rook ac1. And now Lajos Portisch plays a strange move here, knight to b8. And generally, this move isn't really advisable in this situation, where black's moving their pieces backwards, and it seems like a very strange move, but the idea was that if we look at black's position here, black has already moved the rook to e8 and the bishop to f8, so it seems kind of pointless to move the bishop back, and already there's a lot of tension on the knight on c6. White may have ideas of just sacrificing on c6 and just taking the e5 pawn, and that's a very thematic idea. So Portisch played knight to b8, but it's a very strange move because it just moves the knight back, and generally when you have your knight like this, you want to try to consider how you can go forward with your pieces. So White played rook takes c7, but the idea here for Black is that if White just plays a random move like h3, Black is now just going to play c6, and now all of the pressure on the c file is now just not really important, because now the pawn on c6 just blocks the c file here, and Portisch would reroute his knight to d7, and he would have a good position. But the problem was that he thought that after White plays rook takes c7, he can play this move bishop to c6. Now it attacks the queen and the rook, but Botvinnik had a nice response already planned to Portisch's anti-positional moves. So you can pause the video and try to come up with what Botvinnik played in response to Portisch's bishop c6. So here, Botvinnik played rook takes c6, sacrificing the rook. Now, b takes c6, and can you guess the follow-up here? Botvinnik plays rook takes f7, and if we look at this, this is a very good sacrifice, because if the king takes on f7, White could go knight to g5, and if the king just goes to e7, here even bishop takes c6 is just a good move, and then White just takes the pawn, and if Black takes, there's the ideas of bishop c5 and queen e6 checkmate, so White's position is really good. So after knight to g5, if a move like king g8 was played, then queen c4, and here this is just a simple checkmate, and this is here the rook's just not defending g8, so there's not even any need for the smaller mate, but it's just queen g8 checkmate. So that's not playable, and also if king g6, then queen e4, and following up with moves like queen f3 and queen f7 just immediately wins. Here, White could go knight to e6 with the discover check and pick up the queen, but even better is the move bishop to f3, threatening queen to h5 checkmate, and if Black tries to stop it with g6, queen takes h7 checkmate. So Portisch sees this knight g5 idea, and he tries to stop it with h6. Now Botvinnik just moves his rook out of the way. Now queen to c8, queen c4 check, and you can really see how all of these light squares are really weak in Black's position. King to h8, knight to h4, just taking advantage of that, bringing the knight in, and even just sacrificing the rook, but here knight g6, knight g6 is played, and king to h7, bishop e4, and really, even though White is down material, they have complete control of the position, and bishop to d6, knight takes e5, Now this comes with the check, and if just king h8, knight f7 would be very dangerous. Knight d6 just picks up the queen, and if g6, bishop takes g6, and even concluding with the finish of bishop takes h6. And now if black were to take, white would go queen h4 check, king g7 is forced, and at this point white could just toss in this check and then even just pick up the queen on b7, and white is just completely winning. So that was a very nice game from Botvinnik. Both sides started out with normal natural development, but Botvinnik took control over the c-file, and he thought through this knight b8 idea, and whenever your opponent has a move that you're skeptical of, you should just try to see if you have a way to punish them. So you should always be looking out for these types of refutations. Rook takes c7, and Botvinnik just has the advantage in this game, and he played it very nicely, taking control of all of these light squares and finishing off in style. So I hope you like this game. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on my next video. Bye!